Hi, I'm Rachel Zeskind, and today we're going to be doing a workshop on the spine and supporting your spine. Okay, so what I find is that a lot of people come to me or to my center to work on their back when they have a spine injury. Usually people don't come and say, hey, how do I keep my back strong? How do I avoid injury? There isn't a lot of preventative measures taken regarding the spine. It's usually retroactively. People have an injury and then they're like, oh no, how do I fix this problem and then keep it from happening again? Because low back pain is something that plagues a lot of Americans and it's really, really painful. I just want to share with you really quickly my experience with the spine. So I fell down 2 flights of stairs actually, and I herniated a disc in my spine so badly that the orthopedic really wanted me to have surgery. They prescribed pain medication and they tried to push surgery on me. And I kept saying, well, wait, isn't this pain medication masking my pain so I don't really have a solid assessment of where I really am right now? And if that's the case, then wait, hold on, let's pump the brakes. I'm not willing to just sign up for surgery. Let me just have a minute here and really think about this and see how I want to address this. I didn't get a lot of support from the traditional orthopedic. I just got a lot of pressure. So what my experience was is I really had to be strong and I had to stand up for my own wellness and say, hey, that's great. That might end up being the direction that I have to go, but hold on, I need a little time to process this and to just collect information. What I ended up doing was diving back into my personal training with fitness and wellness and naturopathic medicine. And so what I did is I started off with acupuncture and stretching. I took restorative yoga classes, and slowly I was able to heal from the injury enough to where the muscles weren't so inflamed. I was still in a lot of pain, but I was able to begin getting to a place where I could start building the muscles around it to strengthen and to support that injured area. Now, a herniated disc, that's something that doesn't go away. If it's a herniated disc, it is herniated. But you can build up the muscles to support that so that it's not having so much pressure on it. And you never know what's going to happen. I mean, the spine is one of those things where it has nerves running through it, and we can't exactly project or predict what is going to cause pain or not cause pain. It sort of is one of those things that we have to experiment with a little bit. And that's what I did in my own body. And so I experimented and I found that, wait a minute, if I build these muscles up, they're strong and they hold the spine up, then the weakened area, that herniated disc, is supported to expand and it's not compressing on nerves. Wait a minute, I'm not in pain anymore. So that was really the beginning of my research into the spine and caring for it, restoring it, and rebalancing it. So now my approach towards everything in any injury is to find a way to go to that injury and to build up and sculpt the muscles that are around it, supporting it in order to strengthen it and see if you can bring yourself back into balance and back into healing. All right, so that's, again, my experience with the spine. And I want to just talk a little bit about the spine and wear and tear and what it really looks like. Okay, so I was actually talking to another orthopedic surgeon, and we were having a conversation about the spine and about herniated discs and just about compressions and low back pain. And so this doctor said to me, Rachel, if you are over 25 years old, you probably have some kind of herniated discs. Most people, it doesn't hurt them, but that's just what happens with wear and tear. So I started to think about that. And I researched it more, and I want to read a few statistics to you. And this isn't to freak you out. This isn't to try to like scare you into taking care of your spine. This is just to provide information, whether you're watching this because you do have low back issues or because you want to prevent ever having low back issues. This is just some valuable information. So these are some statistics from American Chiropractic Association. And it says that 31 million Americans experience low back pain at any given time. 1/2 of all working Americans admit to having back pain symptoms every year. Back pain is one of the most common reasons for missed work. In fact, back pain is the second most common reason for visits to the doctor's office, outnumbered only by upper respiratory infections. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Okay, so even a few more that I want to share with you is, again, still from American Chiropractic Association, Americans spend at least $50 billion each year on back pain, and that's just the more easily identified costs. Okay, so this is, I just want to stop right here and just say, if you're not thinking that you have time or money for preventative measures in, health care in your body, and you taking ownership of that process and getting intentional about it, I promise you that you're going to spend that time and that money somewhere. It's just whether or not you want to spend it in health or in pain. So experts estimate that as many as 80% of the population will experience a back problem at some point in their lives. So 80% of you may have or may experience some kind of back pain. So my goal here is to just kind of give you some resources and tools to avoid falling into the pitfall of like the traditional, I would say, rat wheel that a lot of people get caught on, and I almost got caught on, which is just going to the doctor, them prescribing pain medication. There's hardly any accountability for them. Okay, so they're prescribing pain medication. Some people even get addicted to it. There's so many problems, but at the end of the day, it's not solving your problem. So even if you have low back pain because you tweaked it, you strained something, you injured it, you had some kind of specific incident that caused it, or even sometimes it's just over time weakening and you wake up and it just hurts. But either way, say you go to the doctor and the doctor gives you medication, that is simply a Band-Aid. So what is going to happen is you're going to take that medication and it might give your body a little bit of a break so that the muscle inflammation can decrease and your body can start to just rebalance, and that brings you out of pain. But guess what? That's only going to last so long until that same thing happens again. Again, Band-Aids are not really a long-term fix. They just cover up the issue temporarily and kind of get you through. So here are some resources in order to create a long-term solution. What you're going to do is you're going to focus on strengthening and supporting. So there's sort of two elements to the back that you want to consider. There's sort of two categories. One is stretching, releasing tension, releasing stress and strain from the body so that basically your body can function smoothly and in balance. Then the second category that you want to consider is that strengthening. Okay, so the spine is a very long thing. It comes from the base of the skull all the way down into your tailbone. And so that's a very long thing. And I know that people think that they may be practicing good posture and not being rough on it. But even if you're sitting at the car driving, that's actually, your shoulders tend to come forward and you're actually in a forward fold. A lot of people who work on desks are actually in a forward fold most of the day. So that over a long period of time, that actually creates a breakdown in those discs and a weakening in the whole entire spine. So everybody, no matter who you are, what age you are, you could be well served by strengthening the spine. Okay, so how can I avoid back pain in general? Well, it's those two things, that stretching and that strengthening. But let's add a couple of more points here. So building a strong core. I like to just say this little cheesy saying because it works and it sticks and you'll probably be stuck with it now forever. But I say don't ignore the core, and see, now you have it. Okay, so a lot of times we tend, just like the spine, we tend not to work on our core until we put on a little bit of weight or we notice it's like a little loose and jiggly or we want it to look a certain way. But the core is something that supports and holds that spine up. So it's really important in conjunction with strengthening the muscles that go along and support the spine and hold you vertical and erect, that you also are strengthening your core. So with strengthening the core, there's a lot of amazing ab workouts out there. Really find one that you enjoy. That's going to be the bottom line. You can, look on our site and do one of our core workouts. You can probably go to the gym and see people doing different core workouts. Again, figure out what you enjoy, and that's something that you can incorporate into your workout program actually every day of the week. Well, 6 days of the week, because I always like to recommend that no matter how active you are, you take one day to rest. I mean, even on the 7th day, God rested, so there's probably something to that. Okay, so 6 days a week, you can train your core. It's something that we use. We use when we talk, we use when we move. It's something that we use for everything. So since our body was designed to use our core constantly, it is a muscle and one of the only muscles that can be trained that much without overtraining. All right. So strengthening the low back and the mid back. We have some great, full body workouts here on the site, and you can watch them. You can do some of our back workouts. But one of the things that you want to think about is that a lot of times the low back, this region between the L4 and the L5, basically a couple inches above your sit bone, right, is this area that tends to be weaker. The muscles are very small, spinal rectus, and the muscles that are very small and intricate, and they insert and connect into the spine and support and hold it into place, okay? So if that becomes weak, it's like wet noodles. It gets all loose and it doesn't hold things in the alignment that it's supposed to be in. And that's when things can slip out of placement. You can compress, you can damage. Okay, so again, you want to strengthen that. A lot of the low back exercises that I recommend are things that are like Roman chair or anything that is what you call a hyperextension. Although you don't want to hyperextend into beyond a flat back position. You never want to arch into the spine. A lot of times I will see people in the gym or even at our center, and then we obviously will correct them. But as far as their form, when they're doing any kind of a back exercise, they're arching into the back and creating a curve. That's actually just compressing the spine. And then you're in the joint, you're not actually in the muscle. So when you're doing any kind of low back exercises, you want to always make sure that you keep your core drawn in, and that whatever exercise it is, you're coming to a flat back position and not that overarched curve. Okay, so those are just some things to throw in and to think about as you're doing a low back strength training exercise program. Okay, so practicing positive or effective posture that is going to support what you're trying to create in your spine, which is wellness and balance. So again, that is forward folding. You're driving your forward folding. So 2 things. Number 1, rebalancing the spine. This is kind of a common sense thing, but it's a very yoga philosophy, is bringing the body back into balance. If you're doing a lot of that forward folding throughout the day in just the common practices that you participate in, you want to rebalance by doing some back bends. So take one of our classes here online and really just spend some time focusing on one of the back bends or the rebalancing of the spine. Even the simple cat-cows is rebalancing the spine. So with any type of a back bend, I'm just going to give you some proper form and alignment that's going to serve you as you practice, whether it's yoga on here or anywhere else that you're doing any kind of a back bend or spinal rebalancing. Okay, so before you go backwards, you always want to go up. Okay, and what that does is when you create that thought process, it actually brings the spine into alignment, really elongates and brings it up before you release it backwards so that you're not crunching, compressing, or hyperextending into the spine. Okay, so think of it this way. Whether you're going into a full wheel backwards or back bend, or if you're just doing a slight back bend in camel pose, either way, anytime you're going backwards, what I'm telling you is going to serve you. So think up first, really root in through the feet, or if you're on your knees, you're rooting down through the knees. Draw in the core, inhale, that chest comes up, elongate the neck, and so you're just all nice and long. So you're thinking up, right? And then before you go backwards, you're gonna just slightly press your hips forward. And then inhale that chest up again, and then you can start releasing your shoulders backwards as you press the hips forward a little bit more. So here are the steps again, just to simplify. Think up, hips forward, inhale, chest up again, and then gently begin releasing backwards. So that's a good, healthy, and safe form for you to consider when you're doing any kind of spinal rebalancing in back bends. Okay, so proper bend and lift. Now, this is one that I never paid attention to, especially in my 20s. I was like, that's for old people. Yeah, my grandfather has to think about that, but I don't have to think about it. Well, guess what? Yes, you do. So bending and lifting. Here's the number one reason for low back injuries that I see for younger people, like under 30, is typically they're bending straight down and lifting straight up, or they are bending and then twisting. Okay, vacuuming is one that we're all pretty guilty of that, because we're bent over and we're going like this. So I know that it seems like, oh my gosh, really, do I have to pay attention to how I stand and bend and do everything? Well, if you want your spine to avoid getting injured, again, just practice it and it becomes a pattern. So then you don't have to think about it. You can kind of throw it off of your radar. All right, so when you're bending from the knees and you're pressing up through the heels. That's how you're lifting things. If you have to bend down and twist, that's going to cause a problem. So what you want to do is simply, I know it's really simple, but turn in the direction and then bend at the knees and pick up, come straight up, and then come to the center. All right, so just think about it. You're building out your posture step by step. Try to approach bending and lifting and bending and twisting like you would a yoga class, and create a posture to it. Get intentional. Okay, so what if you are already in pain? And that's going to be a lot of you, either right now, today, in your body, or maybe something that you've experienced in the past. All right, so if you are in pain, there's that two-step, okay? The first step to getting out of pain is to let the aggravated or stressed out, inflamed areas calm down a little bit. All right, so good old-fashioned, nice hot bath in Epsom salt. That's amazing. Another thing that really helps as well with inflammation, I know that doctors are, again, very fast to pull out their prescription pad and give a prescription for an anti-inflammatory, but there's a really easily accessible, all-natural version on the market, and it's called Arnica. It's from a root. You can pick it up at most vitamin stores or at Whole Foods, and really, spend some time. Whole Foods tends to have great people working there that can explain the differences between the different brands and the different strengths, and also for what your specific injury, and you can get a little bit more direction on that. But it's something that's natural. It doesn't tear up your stomach. It doesn't fog up your mind, and that's a great way to just, while it's aggravated and inflamed, to calm it down, give it a chance, the inflammation to relax, okay? So kind of a 101 on injury is when we experience any kind of a trauma in the body, whether that's like an injury or a rough emotional day, our body recognizes trauma to an area or even to the whole body. And we're so smart, like our systems are made so incredibly intelligently that what happens is the body knows it's experienced a trauma and it collects water and literally sends water there to collect around the injured area in order to cause a safe environment and cushion that injury in order to heal. So it creates space and time for that healing to occur, which is incredible, right? Now, sometimes during that healing process, that inflammation can actually cause more pain there. So coming alongside of that time process, we're going to help that inflammation come down slowly. And arnica is a really good way of doing that. Okay, so with doing a bath or with the arnica, that's one way to decrease the inflammation. But again, your body needs that inflammation there to buy that space and that time for healing. So the number one thing that you can do is actually honor that, right? I know we want to change everything that isn't comfortable, but sometimes we just need to slow down and honor that we have an injury, our body has experienced a trauma, and we need to just be loving towards ourselves and rest. So those are those two initial responses to pain and injury. And then the second response that's sort of still in that category is stretching. Stretch it out, release it. When we experience a trauma, I don't know if anybody's ever seen like the crash test dummies on TV or on YouTube or whatever, and like they get flung at something and there's a response, their body bounces back, and that's not a real body. But our bodies, because we have intuitive senses wired into us and we're living beings, we anticipate that trauma coming at us and we clench, we tighten. Every part of us just tightens against it and braces ourselves. And that happens in our brain and emotionally and in our hearts and in every muscle in our body. So we want to stretch out the muscles and release that trauma and that tension, that bracing from the system. Because when we're trying to heal and we have that inflammation, that's a protector, that's creating time and space. That bracing, stress, that actually is counterproductive to us healing. So we want to encourage the healing process by allowing our body to release that and kind of moving ourselves out of that fight or flight mode, or that emergency status, and into restorative. So a nice restorative yoga class, a gentle and therapeutic, My Relax, Renew, Restore, any of those, or even just laying there on your back, eyes closed, and spending 5 minutes just breathing in and out through the nose is an amazing signal to our whole system to start relaxing the body. I know, again, a lot of these things are very simple, but they do work. And then the next thing is, once you have begun to reduce that pain, don't do what I did at the beginning, which was when I was in pain, I would get a little less pain and I would think, oh yeah, but I don't want to push it. Sometimes you have to begin pushing yourself and challenging yourself. Not to the point of injury, I'm not saying that, but challenging yourself to begin building strength where there's weakness. And that tends to bring us the rest of the way out of the pain. Okay, so if you start on that adventure and you start exercising, you start trying to strengthen, and you have shooting pains, or you wake up the next day and your body is giving you internal feedback that you're worse, not like oh, I worked out that muscle really good, but like oh, that's not good. Listen to your body. Your body and your internal feedback is going to be your best guide, your most intelligent guide for the process of getting yourself out of pain. Okay, so exercises that I stand by and support for the back. I really like to incorporate yoga and Pilates to when I prescribe, a spine strengthening, or really it's the muscles around the spine, strengthening program for someone that's either has a weakness in their body, trying to prevent a weakness in their body, or has sustained an injury. I recommend yoga and Pilates, some type of a nice balance of that, in addition to some sculpting exercises, specifically more weight training focused for the low back, or plyometric. And again, we have exercises on this website. You can find what works for you and find what you enjoy. So that's the skinny on the spine. Make sure that you're taking care of your body and honoring it now so that it honors you later.